So Steve, one of the things you talk about in your book is the importance of sort of defining and understanding your purpose and direction that you're going in.
Yeah.
How does someone start that journey?
With great difficulty. It's not easy, because if you again, running my training programs, right, you'll ask an audience, maybe a small group, large group, write down, answer the question, what is my purpose? And most people would sit there with a blank sheet of paper going, well, I don't really know, right? Because it's a big question. If I said, what's your goals and objectives for the next week and a half? Pay the bills, do this, do that, but what's the reason you're here, right? That's a big question. The start point for it, though, is to get people to think about what's important to them. Right, I think so. There's a whole chunk around values on that. It's actually no different from working with a corporate, if you think about it. Simon Sinek, you might have come across his work. He wrote a book called Start With Why, which he put a video out on TED, and it got 13 million hits. And he drew 3 circles, and he says all businesses know what they do. All businesses pretty much know. People know how they do what they do, but do you really know why you do what you do? And the ones that have that why, that's where the passion comes from. And it's the same thing for an individual, I think. What's your purpose? Sounds like a very big question, but actually it's asking a question like, what's important to you? What floats your boat? What makes you feel good? There's a lot of questions you can ask around that. They don't give you the answer, but there's eventually a sort of cross-section of thoughts. You think, do you know what? That's what I'm really about. I'm really about people. I'm really about activity. I'm really about sport. I'm really about whatever the thing is. And we've all got our own things. Like, I know mine's not technology. So you know what your things are. And it's not to say you can't be good at other things. It's just what is going to be your passion. And I think actually more businesses now are starting to realize when employing somebody that questions that uncover some of that are really helpful. So what's your passion, I guess, is another way of putting it. What drives you every day? What gets you out of bed in the morning that makes you think, I want to go and do this, rather than, oh, I've got to go and do this. And I think when you get people in a job that is just the thing that they do, because they've got the skill or they've spent time on it, is not necessarily going to get an engaged workforce. Whereas you get people who do things because they connect to the bigger purpose. A big example would be healthcare. Most of my life, well, half my life is spent in healthcare, working with the National Health Service. When people are in health and they are passionate about healthcare, passionate about patients, it doesn't matter whether they're in finance, whether they're in a clinical role, they'll do an amazing job every day. They'll find something inside of them to keep going when they're tired. But if it's just doing the job, right, if it just pays the bills, then they're into the do stuff. Then that's where they'll get very disengaged when the business changes or the structures change or the salaries aren't growing. It's not to say we don't want more money, but we've got a reason behind us. And so I think these questions we need to ask are all around what's important, what drives you, what your values are, and from there, and what your beliefs are, then you get a sense of what your purpose is.
And how important is it to define it completely? Because you've asked a few questions there to get to that place. What really excites you? What are your values? What do you believe in? And these are questions that some people may struggle to answer those as well, but some people can answer more of those type of questions. How important do you think it is to actually define it? So ask yourself those questions and get to a point where you can absolutely define it in a succinct way.
Well, I think just to take the pressure off, most people ask the question of, right, don't have the answer. Very few people, I don't care who you are, you sit down and say, if you're in a pub asking a mate, what's your purpose? I don't know what your purpose is. But if you take what I experience, it's not to say this is in a textbook, it's what I find, is that people who, through life, you've got a series of chapters, right? And when I was young, I was a squash player. And I played county squash, I got involved in the leisure industry. And if you'd asked me at 19, 18, 20, what's your purpose? I would say, be the best squash player, be the best coach I can be. That's all that matters to me. I hadn't even discovered the pharmaceutical industry. I didn't even know there was such a thing as the pharmaceutical industry. Then one day I'm in a car and I get introduced through a friend to the pharma industry. I become a pharmaceutical rep, I develop a career. So if you ask me when I was 22 to 24, 26, I want to be the best manager in the world. I want to be successful in sales. I want to change the world. I want to bring new drugs to the market that are going to be innovative. And then I got into the speaking industry. And then you want to be inspirational. So I think it's a bit like climbing a mountain and you suddenly think, I'm at the top. No, you're not. There's another bit. And that bit of my life is now stored and been really helpful. I think there's a thread of consistency. It's always with me being about people and communication and excitement and energy. There's elements of me which, if I was in a different kind of role, I genuinely would find the days very long. But I do think it's about being accepting that you don't have to have the one thing. It doesn't have to be one thing. For me, it's having an array of roles and responsibilities and find out your purpose or your raison d'etre within each. And I don't think you have to worry. So I'll give you a quick example. My son is a magician, right? He's 19 years old. When he was 17, he got sick at school in terms of he was cheesed off and said, I want to do magic. Right, son, follow your passion. He loves magic, he's into magic, he's good at magic. And he got to the finals of Young Magician of the Year, and he does magic pretty much all the time. So when he talks about who he mixes with, if you ask Christopher now, what's your purpose? It would be something like to become the greatest magician, close-up magician on the planet. At this point in time. I'm not saying it's ever going to change, but that's what it would be. If you ask, and then Chris Akabusi, who's a good mate of mine, we spend a lot of time talking about various things of life. He had a lovely phrase. I was talking about Christopher finding running the business quite difficult, but being a magician is relatively straightforward for him. But you have to run a business to be able to get the clients to do the magic. And Chris Akabusi, I was telling this to, and he said, I think it was a beautiful phrase. He says, if he just keeps doing the magic, the future will take care of itself. And to me, that was a beautifully eloquent, poetic way of saying, if you focus on the thing you're passionate about, your raison d'etre, your thing, your essence, in that moment, the future takes care of itself. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I came back, told him that, and he completely chilled. Do you know, that was brilliant.
So when you're trying to find your passion, what you're saying is it's what you're passionate about today, and although there'll be common themes, it's okay for that to evolve over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very rare people look back. There's a few people, I'm sure, they get into something and that's them forever. But I think most people I meet in the day-to-day life that I have, there's celebrity person who's done something unique, but they're aiming for the gold medal in the Olympics. And then a lot of Olympians actually find this is the case. When they do retire, they get a bit depressed because their whole lives have just worked towards, what's your purpose? Gold medal, Olympics, gold medal, Olympics, gold medal, Olympics. And they get the gold, or get the 3 golds if you're Sir Chris Hoy, or 5 if you're, Redgrave. And then suddenly you retire.
Now what?
What is there to do? And often become a speaker, or something, and I think you can't say to them when they're training for their gold medal, so what's your real purpose though? What's the bigger one than that? At the moment, they can't see past it. That's the next peak. And when I get there, I'll worry about what's after it. But they're incredibly driven at that point. Because the question we've got to ask is, why is it even important to have a purpose in the first place? And the reason it's important in the first place is because with a purpose, it gets you moving. Right? It gets you going, it gets you active. Whereas if you get out of bed and all it is stuff to do, it's just stuff, then I'm not surprised if people wake up and think, I'm not doing this anymore. When's retirement coming? So that's the whole purpose of it. So I think we've got to not worry too much about whether we've got every single part of our lives mapped out. Just focus on something, have something to get you out of bed in the morning that makes you feel, wow. I want people to say, I get to go to work, not I've got to go to work. And there's a very big difference between those two things.